Hey everyone, Michelle Alexandria coming at you with another CinemaCon recap. Right now, I'm going to talk a little bit about Paramount Pictures presentation, and it was an interesting presentation. There's a lot to say about it, but there's actually not a lot to say about it. So let's dive right in. Presentation opened up with a clip of Johnny Knoxville doing a bit in front of Caesar's Palace. He talked a little bit about the Jackass movie, and he wanted to show a stunt, and the stunt was a weird stunt where basically there was some guy strapped to a Elvis Presley style jetpack or something, and they had him jumped in front of Caesar Palace in like a rocket ship or something, and it was a really cool stunt because they shot him out they shot him out over this ramp, and the guy jumped over like the fountains or something in front of Caesar Palace, and it was really cool because as he was coming into the landing, and suddenly the smoke there was smoke all over the stage, and then you see the rocket ship just kind of shoot over across the stage, and it ended up being the president distribution for Paramount Pictures. So that was a great way to open the show. And it was great because it was a Thursday morning opening. And normally Thursday mornings are used to be for Fox, 20th Century Fox. And the president of 20th Century Fox used to do these amazing opening bits to his presentations. And I'm wondering if it's the same guy because this was completely reminiscent of it. It was really great because smoke came out of everyone, shocked everyone, and then next thing you know, you see the rocket ship or car or whatever like just shoot across the stage, and he gets out of it. He's wearing like an Elvis suit, and then basically there are a bunch of he has like these Elvis style girls come out and kind of like help him out of the car, and he undresses the Elvis suit and he puts on his business suit, and he's ready to go to do some business. That was a fantastic way to open the show. It kind of woke the crowd up. Crowd was really into it. Then he dives right into it. He says right from the start, "Hey, we're gonna show you some exclusive footage from Mission Impossible." And then we're going to show you the first 13 minutes of Top Gun. And then we're going to show you the full movie for Clifford, the big red dog. And everyone was good. We were like, I was up in the press section, and we were all looking at each other like, we thought he was joking about the big red dog thing. And the way he said it, the lineup, it was so deadpan, kind of like devoid of life. It was really weird the way he mentioned it. He was just kind of like, just matter of fact, and gave the rundown of the show. And it just didn't seem like it was actually going to be the rundown. You know how when people deliver something and they're telling you the truth, but you don't quite believe it, and you're like, well, they're going to be, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. And he has to be joking about the Clifford the Big Red Dog movie. But no, he wasn't. So the show opened with 13 or 14 minutes of Tom Cruise talking about Mission Impossible. And I love Tom Cruise. I don't have many movie heroes or people I look up to in the business, but Tom Cruise is one of them. The man is an absolute beast. He is a beast. And I really hope they show this footage. They release this 10-minute behind the scenes look at Mission Impossible on YouTube or something, because if you watch this clip, you cannot help but admire what this man does. Sometimes you wonder if he actually imagines a outrageous stunt and then tells his writer, "Hey, let's make a movie around this one stunt that we want to do." Like in the past, Mission Impossible you had the one stunt where he's hanging across the plane, and you're like, wow, how can you top that? Well, he topped it by doing 0 Gs. And before he was hanging off the top of the plane, he was hanging off of cliffs. And he was hanging off the Dubai Tower. And then after that, the big stunt was hanging off the plane, then doing zero G to get a shot. And for Mission Impossible, he does this incredible stunt where basically, if you can imagine a Grand Canyon only in Norway, someone trying to jump across the Grand Canyon on a motorcycle and then leaping off the motorcycle into the Grand Canyon and then opening up a parachute at the very last second. That was this stunt, only they did it in Norway, and it's stunning what they did and the amount of work they did to do it, because they built, what they did was they went to Norway, they built an entire like super long ramp from scratch. It took them 3 or 4 months to build it, and there was no roads or anything in Norway, so they actually had to helicopter in every single part of this ramp and everything they needed to do this one stunt. They spent months literally helicoptering all the equipment, building a ramp. And Tom Cruise, this stunt had two different pieces to it. It had the motorcycle stunt, the actual jump itself, which was pretty amazing. But then it also had the base jumping aspect of it. And Tom Cruise had to learn how to do both parts. And in order to do both parts, he actually did 500 skydiving jumps. So he's basically a skydiving beast right now, an expert. He did 500 of those to train for the parachuting part of this stunt. And then he learned how to become a motocross champion, basically, and did over 13,000 jumps. And when they were actually showing the evolution of his training, you see him go from like these little small short jumps to these longer and longer jumps, and to these higher and higher, longer and longer jumps on the motocross bike. And it's all Tom Cruise. It's so amazing. And the other thing about it is, not only did they have to do all of that, but the other thing they were worried about is making sure they had cameras to make sure that the cameras would actually capture all the footage. So they actually weren't even worried about the Tom Cruise portion of the stunt. They were more worried about actually programming the robots, the robot cameras. They were using brand new camera techniques that were invented just for Mission Impossible. And it's pretty amazing. And they had to program the robots to make sure they were in a proper position. They had to calculate that everything had to be so precise in order to pull this off. And when they did it, they actually showed it. They showed us him doing it live. They actually showed the stunt, and it's incredible because he just he races across this huge ramp, and he jumps all the way up the ramp, and he's like up on his bike like this. And right after that, right as it gets to the top of the bike, he lets go of the bike, and the bike, there's no wires anywhere, so the bike kind of crashes down against the mountain, and he does like this, and he does a free jump, a free flowing base jump, and he does, and it was so tense. You're like, oh my God, is he going to make it? And the way they filmed this was so incredible because you could feel the pressure and the tenseness. And they cut over to the director and the crew watching this unfold, and then like this as he jumps, and he waits. And then cuts to Tom Cruise falling down, and then cuts back to the crew, and it's like this. And at the very last minute, you see the chute open, and I'm like, you felt like you actually watched the movie in and of itself with this 10-minute footage clip. It was so stunning. And then they showed it, and it was so funny because at the end of it, Tom Cruise was like, I think I should have held onto the bike a few seconds longer. Let's do it again. And everyone's like, whoa! So he actually did it. They actually filmed it 6 times. And they called it one of the most difficult stunts ever pulled off in Hollywood, and definitely within the Mission Impossible franchise. And you believe it. When you see everything that went into doing this stunt, it was spectacular. It's spectacular. And this is when you're like, yeah, made for the big screen. You gotta see this on a big screen. The problem is, as I've been saying all week, my local theaters suck. But if you can see it in a place like the Alamo Draft House or in the Coliseum style seated setting where everything's perfect and flawless, Oh my God, that was eye popping. It really was, and not much impresses me anymore. But that was like, oh my God, that was like, whew. I mean, you really felt for Tom Cruise in that moment. And then after that, they showed a couple of quick clips of Mission Impossible, so like maybe 90 minutes of it, or 90 seconds of it, not 90 minutes of it, but 90 seconds of actual footage from the movie. And the entire game's back, so you actually have Haley Atwell back in it. You have Simon Pegg. There's a quick shot of Simon Pegg and a quick shot of Ving Rhames. So his whole crew is there. So it's going to be an amazing movie, and I can't wait to see this movie. I'm so looking forward to it. Then after that, we got more Tom Cruise goodness. We got the entire first reel of Top Gun, and there's not much I could say about that without getting someone from Paramount reaching their godlike hand out to me and like smiting me down. But I believe it or not, I've never actually watched Top Gun, the first one, and I actually own that movie, so I have to go watch. I don't know if I should watch it before I see the sequel now. You all tell me, should I watch Top Gun before I see the sequel now, or should I just go right into the sequel and watch it from the perspective of someone who has never seen the first one? Maybe I'll do that and then come back and watch the first one. But yeah, the footage, the first 13 minutes is incredible. Just that initial gong, and then someone who's never really watched the first one, that song, that gong, that Top Gun theme still gets to me every single time. And when it's like do 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 do, it is such an iconic theme song, even for people who never, someone like me who's never actually watched the movie. That theme song gets me every single time. It really does. So it starts with that. So it was literally the first reel, the first 13 minutes, and so you get the credit sequence, you get that, and then it's awesome. It's awesome because it goes right into highway in the danger zone. Do, 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 do. I mean, that's how you do it, people. You know, sometimes nostalgia works, and when it works, it's awesome. And again, I never even actually watched the first movie, but I know all the iconic moments from the movie because I've seen all the iconic moments in the music over and over and over throughout my entire life, but I never actually sat down and watched the movie. And just watching the first 13 minutes of it, or just the first opening, like couple of minutes of it, I was transported back to my high school years. And it was, not to hardly date myself, but it was actually amazing. It was amazing. And basically Maverick, and the movie is basically about Maverick. Obviously, Maverick is in a different place in his life. It's 30 years later. He's still a Maverick, obviously, and doing stupid stuff he shouldn't be doing, breaking orders. And Ed, I can't think of his name, but he's a rear admiral, and basically he wants to get rid of all Top Gun fighter pilots and bring in drones. And I guess the entire movie end up being about Tom Cruise like proving him wrong. And in the opening sequence, Tom Cruise is a test pilot, and he's supposed to be testing this supersonic jet, and all he needs to do is hit Mark 10 and they'll keep their funding, keep the program alive. Where God, what is that guy's name? His character, the admiral, wants to shut it down, and Tom Cruise is trying to save everyone's jobs and everyone's careers and everything. So at least he's grown as a person a little bit, and not as selfish as he was in Top Gun. Again, never saw the original, but I know the premise of that movie and who his character was back then. But, you know, of course he takes it too far, and that's about all I can say. But, yeah, that first 13 minutes, it really gets you in the mood for the rest of the movie. And I was like, if you have time to show Clifford the big stupid red dog, you could have just shown all the Top Gun. You really could have. And everyone was really pumped. And then when Clifford the Big Red Dog came out, and everyone realized that Paramount was serious about that was going to be our surprise movie, half the theater emptied out, and the entire press section was pretty much gone. I was like one of four people up in the press section who committed to staying and watching Clifford the Big Red Dog. Because that's how I roll. I'm a critic sometimes, and I was stick it out. I can watch all genres of movies. But yeah, it was good. I don't know what I'm allowed to say about Clifford the Big Red Dog. It was all right. That's about all I can say. It was all right. It starts off weirdly though. It's a pretty depressing movie for a so-called kids movie. You know, I don't know what I'm allowed to say about it, but it's a pretty the first 10 minutes of this movie is depressing as hell, and I'm like, ew. And half this movie is depressing as hell. I'm not sure who this movie's supposed to be for. I mean, you have a little girl who's bullied because she goes to a rich private school, and they call her food stamp because she's on scholarship or something. And then this red puppy comes into play, and apparently this guy who's a veterinarian, a magic veterinarian with secrets and knows how animals can affect people's lives. So he does things like give animals to strangers who need them, and the animals end up being magical. So one night the little girl wishes her new red puppy could be big and strong, so no one could hurt him, just like her. How they both could be big and strong. So the next morning, the puppy grows up to be huge, and then there's like an evil corporation guy who's trying to grow they're trying to couch it so that he wants to invent larger food to feed the world, which is an admirable goal, but they make him a villain and evil. And I'm like, he has a great goal, and he wants to save his company, and he wants to quote-unquote feed the world with his magical growth formula that's not working, but then he's trying to steal this giant dog. The movie makes zero sense at all. But that's about all I can say. I can't really say that much about it. But that's it. That's the Paramount presser, or that's the Paramount presentation. Not, as I said, not much to say about it. But yeah, overall, I'm still going to give the presentation a B because of the Tom Cruise factor. I would almost say Tom Cruise single-handedly won CinemaCon all by himself this week, because his two movies are, wow, just blows your mind. And, again, I always appreciate it when studios give us surprise screenings of stuff that we didn't expect. So Paramount did that, so you got to give them props. It wasn't Ghostbusters, but it was Clifford, the Big Red Dog. So there you go. Talk to you guys later. Bye.